3 bone-chilling true night drive horror stories that haunt you forever. It was a night like no other, where the weight of darkness pressed against the windshield like a heavy hand. Out on the empty road, with nothing but moonlight guiding the way, terror lurked around every corner. 3 tales awaited those brave enough to drive into the unknown, tales that would send shudders down the spine and leave haunting memories for years to come. For those daring enough to listen, the road promised nightmarish encounters that would make the bravest hearts quiver. The engine's hum was a hollow echo in the silence, but that was just the calm before the storm. Just ahead, flickers of a shadow danced along the trees lining the roadside. At first, it seemed like a trick of the light. Was it a deer? A figment of imagination? But as headlights swept the area, a figure emerged, a woman with hair as wild as the wind, standing there in nothing but a tattered white dress. She didn't move, just stared, her eyes glowing with an eerie intensity. A chill crept in, tightening the driver's chest, heart pounding like a drum in the stillness, but this was only the beginning. Just a few miles down the road, another tale unfolded. A lone pickup truck, battered and rusted, sat idling in the middle of nowhere. Its tailgate swung open with a slow creak and a voice pierced through the night air, "Help. Please." But when a good Samaritan stepped closer, the voice morphed into a sinister bark, "Get in the car." Panic surged, twisting stomachs and making palms sweat. Was it just a trick or a malicious invitation to madness? The answer loomed ominously in the dark, and then came the final nightmare, a twist of fate that would grip anyone in its wicked grasp. As a car drove through a desolate stretch, it caught sight of headlights approaching fast in the rearview only to discover they weren't getting closer. They flickered, blinked out, and vanished completely. Anxiety hung like a fog, fogging thoughts and making the air thick enough to cut with a knife. What if the driver turned? Where would those lights lead? Would they vanish into the night, or uncover something terrifying and real? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the night wore on, dread hung heavy in the air. Stories of the mysterious woman, the menacing pickup, and the flickering ghosts of headlights intertwined, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. Were these elusive shadows merely a figment of overactive imagination, or were they whispers from a darker realm? With every mile, a sense of doom clung closer. What happens when darkness falls, and the world becomes a playground for the unknown? The road stretched endlessly ahead, waiting for someone, anyone, to discover the chilling truths lurking just out of sight. The next stretch of road unfolded like a sinister secret, twisting and curving in ways that seemed to mock the driver's search for safety. Tension filled the air, palpable and charged, like a live wire waiting for the slightest touch. The night was heavy, almost suffocating, and the headlights barely pierced the blackness. It felt as if the shadows themselves were alive, inching ever closer to swallow him whole. But then, just beyond a sharp bend, another figure appeared, a shadow crouching low beside the road. Was it another trap? Perhaps it was a ploy, another voice in the dark calling for help. The driver slowed, curiosity battling fear. The faint glow of moonlight revealed a man, his clothes tattered and his face smeared with dirt. He raised his hand weakly, signaling for aid. Yet, something in his posture made the hair on the back of the driver's neck stand up. He knew that look. It was desperation mixed with something darker, something feral. "Please, I need your help." The man's voice trembled, cracking like ice under pressure. "My car broke down just ahead. I can't get it started." But as he focused harder, the driver noticed something bizarre. The man's eyes gleamed unnaturally bright, an unsettling reflection catching the light in a way that should not have been possible. A sense of dread flooded his veins, forcing him to resist the urge to approach. He tapped the gas pedal, preparing to leave, but the man suddenly straightened, abandoning his feeble act. "Don't you want to see what's in the trunk?" he hissed, the plea morphing into a taunt. The driver's heart raced. He stepped on the accelerator, the engine roaring to life under his foot. But the road had other plans. The headlights flared against the darkness, revealing a figure partially obscured beside the truck, a woman, hair billowing like a storm, her white dress glowing eerily. She grinned, revealing teeth that glinted like blades in moonlight. At that moment, terror clenched his throat. He swerved to the left, nearly losing control, and the woman vanished into the shadows as if she had never been there. The grip of panic coiled tighter. "Just keep driving," he muttered to himself. But doubts poured in. What if they were real? What if they were simply ghosts, marking this lonely stretch of road with their pain? Ahead, the road forked. To the right lay familiar territory, a path to safety, while to the left plunged deeper into the unknown obscurity. A neon sign flickered faintly by the roadside, "Gas station, 24 hours." Both choices felt like a gambit with fate. He glanced in the rearview mirror, heart pounding painfully. No sign of the man nor the woman. Only the empty road blanketed in darkness remained. With a deep breath, he charged toward the right, desperate for civilization, but the eerie silence persisted, murmuring promises of forgotten spaces where time danced differently. Just as he thought he could breathe again, the headlights flickering behind him returned closer this time, but still unseen. Out of nowhere, a heavy fog rolled in, thickening like a mask, blinding him. Not again. Desperation clawed at his insides. He had to escape. They were out there, hidden in the darkness, waiting for him to falter. What was behind those headlights, lurking just out of view? Would he ever escape the grip of the night? As he rounded another corner, a terrible screech erupted behind him. Panic surged. Was it just the sound of tires on gravel or something far more sinister? What lay just beyond the mist? Would he survive this journey, or would he plunge headfirst into a wicked entanglement of horror? With his heart racing, he pushed the pedal to the floor, praying for deliverance, for someone, anyone, to break through the darkness. As the echoes of laughter reached his ears, cold and chilling. What truly awaited him in this midnight nightmare? The fog thickened, a living wall that wrapped around the car, closing him in further. His breaths quickened, matching the pounding of his heart. The headlights lit up the road ahead, but the shadows twisted and turned with a life of their own. Every bend felt like a lifetime, every turn a descent deeper into a nightmare. Suddenly, the screech came again, sharper this time, slicing through the fog like a knife. It was closer behind him, unfurling like a dark cloud. He dared not look back. The mere thought sent a jolt of adrenaline coursing through him. Instead, he focused on the road, gripping the steering wheel. His knuckles turned white, and sweat dripped down his spine. "Stay calm. You'll be fine," he whispered, though the tremor in his voice betrayed him. As he pressed the gas pedal harder, the engine roared in response, but it felt heavy. Something was dragging him back, a force tethered to the night. The laughter echoed again, fainter this time, but echoed with a similar cadence to that of a twisted melody, and he couldn't shake the feeling that it was directed at him. 5 more minutes, he thought. That's all he needed. A flicker in the corner of his eye drew his attention. To the right, silhouettes began to emerge from the fog, more figures, dancing among the shadows. Terrified, he squinted, trying to make sense of them. Was it imagination? Or were they real? Pale limbs, hands reaching out, faces contorted in silent screams. Panic gripped him tighter, squeezing the air from his lungs. That he took a sharp left turn onto an even narrower road. The pavement became riddled with potholes, bouncing him around like a rag doll. The headlights cut through the darkness, highlighting the crooked trees lining the path, their branches looming like skeletal fingers. Each crack and thud against the tires amplified his heart's frantic rhythm. Suddenly, something struck his car. Metal crunched against metal with a sickening sound, and the vehicle jolted violently. He barely held on, the world spinning around him in a disorienting whirl. A chilling thought clawed at him: had he hit someone? But when he glanced in the rearview mirror, the fog swallowed any sign of a body. All that remained were the tortured wails echoing in the stillness, their relentless chorus filling the air like an unholy symphony. "I have to get out of here," he cried, the words ripping from his throat in desperation. He accelerated even more, wishing the car could fly, wishing he could escape this macabre theater. Yet, the figures continued to dance just out of the reach of his headlights, each passing moment slipped into torment, adrenaline turning to dread. The road twisted further, but ahead a glimmer of hope appeared, a dull light, piercing through the fog. A break in the shadows. He swerved toward it, praying it was the gas station advertised earlier. As he approached, the sign flickered madly, the glow welcoming and malicious all at once. Would a beacon of light offer him salvation or further plunge him into this nightmare? But as he drew closer, his heart sank. This wasn't a gas station, it was an old, dilapidated building, its windows shattered and doors gaping like hungry mouths. A figure stood at the entrance, nearly invisible through the mist. "Help!" it croaked, drawing him in like a magnet. No! Reality slammed back, and he slammed the brakes, tires screeching in protest. The figure lurched forward, growing more distinct, a woman, her face eerily familiar. It was the same woman from before, the one with the glowing dress and slashing grin. In that moment of realization, he froze. The darkness around him seemed to pulse, watching, waiting for him to make the wrong choice. With raw determination, he wrenched the wheel and swerved past the building, the figure's scream echoing as he sped away. But laughter chased him still, unsettling, growing louder behind him, mocking, taunting. What awaited him next, in the endless night? More figures. More choices. Would he find a path back to safety, or was he forever enshrined in this twisted game? The horrid truth lingered, snaking through his mind like the fog itself. As he pressed on, the laughter rang out again, more shrill than before. "You can't escape!" it shrieked. Could he? Or was he already trapped in this nightmare? The trees loomed larger now, their crooked shadows stretching across the road, clawing at the edges of his sanity. The laughter echoed again, a fractured melody that twisted the air around him, sending shivers coursing down his spine. It felt as though they were chasing him, the specters of the fog, their fingers brushing against the car as if urging him to slow down, to turn back. "Just keep driving," he muttered to himself, gripping the steering wheel so tightly that his hands began to ache. The engine sputtered, a warning or perhaps a final gasp of defiance. He kicked the accelerator, his foot heavy with desperation. The road curved sharply, and the headlights illuminated a sign: danger. Road closed ahead. Panic clawed at his chest. Did he dare continue? But the shadows danced behind him, drawing closer, tethered to his fear. Sucking in a deep breath, he pressed forward, approaching an ominous darkness at the end of this road that felt like a portal to nowhere. As he drove deeper into the unknown, his thoughts raced. What if that woman had been more than just a mirage? What if she was a warning? His pulse quickened, he needed to escape. He couldn't let whatever this was pull him under. Suddenly, the road ended. No warning, no gradual stop, just the crude edge of asphalt giving way to an impenetrable, swirling void. His heart leaped into his throat. He slammed on the brakes, tires squealing in protest, skidding dangerously close to the cliff's edge. In the eerie calm that followed, the world felt frozen, and then it cracked open around him. The laughter rolled in waves, crashing against his senses like surf against stone. "Why don't you just come back?" A voice slithered from the fog, teasing, familiar. It was her voice, that same hypnotic timbre from before. He could almost picture her, dancing with the fog like a puppeteer leading the strings. He whipped around, heart pounding, searching for her. Nothing. Just the swirling mist and the oppressive silence that filled his ears like cotton. A sudden jolt of adrenaline fueled his resolve. He had to find a way out. Forcing back the rising panic, he turned the car around, retracing his path. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to keep moving. But the shadows thickened, and ahead, the headlights glinted off something metallic, another vehicle abandoned on the roadside. He squinted, heart racing. Who had been here? Was he truly alone in this nightmare? Suddenly, he saw her again, standing beside the car, her hair wild and clothes soaked, as if she had just emerged from the abyss. "Help me," she pleaded, her eyes wide and desperate, the glow of her dress illuminating the darkness like a flame flickering in the wind. "Stay away!" he shouted, instinctively backing up. Chaos erupted in his mind as he felt the laughter behind him swell, an ever-encroaching tide that pulled him into its depths. Reality split around him. Was she a victim or a predator? It was impossible to tell in this twisted game. Just then, the lights of the other vehicle flickered erratically. He turned his gaze back to it and his breath hitched. The car's doors swung open, but no one emerged. Instead, that same ambience of cold dread enveloped him, thickening like the fog, wrapping around him, suffocating. Help! Her voice blurred with the wind, rising to a crescendo that screamed in his ears. He could see her twisted smile, no longer enchanting but sinister. What kind of trap was this? The laughter shifted into something heavier, deeper, calling his name, and the shadows began to swirl. Panic surged through him. This time, it felt personal. He had to make a choice. With the fog rolling in closer, he turned the ignition, his heart thundered as he peeled away from the haunting figure. Each second felt agonizing, and he gripped the wheel, desperate for freedom. The fog swallowed the silhouette whole, and all that remained was the echo of her laughter. As he raced back down the road, the promise of salvation blurred with the dread that lingered. Where was the exit? Which way would lead to escape? The laughter intensified. Behind him, a cacophony of mockery and torment. "You can't leave. You want to stay," it howled, more sinister than ever. With tears stinging his eyes, he pressed down on the gas, veering through the fog once more. But deep down, a question gnawed at him: would he ever truly escape this endless night? Ahead, a flickering light beckoned once more. But this time, he didn't know if he dared to hope. What if it was the final destination, or merely another trap waiting to ensnare him? The headlights pierced the thick gloom ahead, a beacon that both comforted and terrified him. He was so close, the dull hum of the engine merging with the sinister laughter behind him, creating a discordant symphony. Each encroaching shadow danced malevolently, tasting his fear, teasing him with promises of what lay beyond the glowing light. "Just don't stop," he whispered, squeezing the steering wheel tighter than before. The road felt less like a path and more like a cruel joke, leading nowhere but deeper into the abyss. As he approached the light, fear wrestled with his hope. What if it was salvation? What if it was just a trick, a deeper snare laced with shadows? He skidded to a halt before the flickering light, heart a thunderous drum in his chest. A small, decrepit shack stood before him, surrounded by a greasy smear of fog swirling lazily among the trees. The doors swung slightly, creaking in rhythm with his breath. A yearning tugged at him, whispers of safety and refuge lurking behind the rotting wood. "Help, please!" The voice was her voice, haunting yet hauntingly familiar. It poured over him like syrup, thick and heavy with desperation. His heart wavered in uncertainty. Should he venture inside? The laughter grew louder, echoing in his mind, an insistent reminder that trust was a dangerous game here. He weighed his options like stones in a scale, but reason slipped through his fingers like sand. The thought of turning back into the fog made his stomach churn. He couldn't return to where that darkness dwelled, wrapping around him like a spider's silk. With resolve stiffening his spine, he cracked open his door. The chill of the evening pressed into him, whispering threats as he stepped outside. Each crunch of leaves mapped his trepidation, each step toward the shack both enticing and foreboding. Strange flickers danced near the windows, shadowy forms that seemed to dart past, hiding just beyond his gaze. Is someone in there? He called, his voice shaky but raw with urgency. Silence met him, stretching the air taut until it hummed. Then nothing but a distant rustling that seemed to echo from within the wood. Had the presence in the shack sensed his uncertainty? Did it beckon, waiting to ensnare him further in its web? He took another step, fingers brushing the splintered wood of the doorframe. The sound of laughter throbbed in his ears, a guttural cacophony that sent tremors through his bones. With an instinct driven by survival, his hand grasped the handle and flung the door open, revealing an interior washed in shadows. Inside, tattered furniture loomed like specters, casting long, crooked shadows on the walls. A dim lantern flickered, casting sickly light across a cracked mirror. And there she stood, a reflection in skittish whispers and pale flickers of light, a twisted semblance of concern, her outline gloving the darkness, pulling him closer. "Don't be afraid, trust me," she beckoned, her voice dripping with sweetness, laced with something darker. The warmth in her eyes felt hollow, an invitation layered with treachery. Time ceased to exist as he held her gaze, wrestling with that familiar fear. His instincts screamed at him, "Run." But his feet felt rooted, heavy as lead. Questions swirled in the dim light. Was she setting a trap? Was there even a choice? Suddenly, the laughter erupted from behind him, twisting his panic into frantic energy. "Join us. You can't fight the end." It surged, the sinister unity of voices blending into one haunting plea. He snapped back to reality, breath hitching as he lunged back, heart racing. No! The door slammed shut as he dashed outside, adrenaline igniting his limbs. Escape. He needed to escape. But as he turned to run, the fog thickened, closing in like a steel trap. The shack faded into the haze behind him, her face an everlasting imprint in his mind. Panting, he bounded down the road, praying for salvation. What lay ahead remained shrouded in excessive shadow, each step a desperate gamble against the promise of what might come, and then, he stumbled upon it, a clearing up ahead. Illuminated by an eerie, otherworldly glow. No shadows danced there. No laughter curled through the air. He hesitated. What was that light? Would it lead to freedom, or was it just a new hell waiting to swallow him whole? He edged closer, heart pounding against his ribs like a caged animal. The glow pulsated, beckoning him with a soothing warmth that blurred the edges of his terror. Shadows didn't cling to this place. Instead, they seemed to shrink back, intimidated by the brightness that spilled across the ground. With cautious steps, he crossed the boundary into the light. A warmth enveloped him. It felt real, unlike the frigid grip of the night. But it also felt different, almost unnatural. The air shimmered around him, and every instinct warned him to turn back. Yet, curiosity grated against his fear. What was this place? He squinted into the brightness. Distracted whispers danced around him, faint like an echo of laughter from a distant memory. Flickering images materialized, fragments of smiles, cries, and shadowy forms weaving through the light, molasses thick like ghosts caught in a swirl of time. "Please stay," a voice drifted through the air, smooth and honeyed. It wrapped around him like a vine, darkening the edges of his mind. "We've been waiting." His gut twisted. Those words felt oddly familiar, like a half-forgotten lullaby sung in echoes of his past. "Who are you?" he called out, the question spilling from his lips like a need for reassurance. No answer came, just the persistent thrum of those distant voices calling him. The clearing felt alive, pulsing with a heart he couldn't quite touch. He glanced behind him, his escape lay shrouded in the haze. The oppressive darkness from which he fled loomed just beyond that glow. Then, a figure emerged from the brilliance. It stepped forward, illuminating the face that had haunted his thoughts. The very same woman he had seen in the shack. Her eyes were wide like saucers, and her smile split her face in a way that shouldn't feel comforting. "They won't hurt you here, not unless you let them," she said, her voice smooth as silk, yet carrying an unsettling weight. "You're safe with us. What do you want from me?" Panic crackled in his chest, threatening to explode. He could almost hear the laughter from the shack rising again, an invocation that sent chills running up his spine. Just to be together. She stepped closer, her outstretched hand glowing softly in front of her. Don't you want that? To be free of all this? Her words danced around him, weaving a spell that tugged at his weary heart. But behind her facade of warmth lay all the horrors of the night, another darkness that could swallow him whole. The laughter returned, hypnotic echoes rolling like waves crashing on the shore of his resolve. If he accepted her offer, would he become one of those ghostly forms trapped forever in this glow? Waves of indecision washed over him. It felt like a choice between life and oblivion. What does it mean to be free? He muttered. Perhaps freedom came with chains he couldn't see. The air crackled with tension, and he could see the shadows shifting. Behind them, a figure loomed once more sinister this time, a dark silhouette that dashed his thoughts of home. It shot straight toward him, frenzied and wild, making the air grow heavier, darker. In that moment, instinct kicked in. He bolted, the figure's laughter chasing him as he retraced his steps into the fog, the warmth of the glow receding behind him like a dying star. Panic surged as realization dawned, he had dared to linger too long. What lay ahead still remained concealed, but now he felt the pull of something far worse than the whispers of what he'd escaped. With his heart racing, he plunged into the mists once more, fear mingling with determination, yet what awaited him in the darkness? Did he truly escape, or had he only chosen a different path towards something even more horrifying? Would the laughter follow him forever? He stumbled forward, breath hitching, as he dared to hope there might still be a way out. The fog pressed in around him like a heavy blanket, thick and suffocating. Each step felt misled, as if the ground itself conspired against him. The laughter lingered in his ears, sharper now and more mocking, a reminder that light had shadows waiting to claim him back. That he forced his legs into motion, adrenaline spurring him on. Behind him, the shadows danced, writhing figures obscured by the mist, slithering closer with every hurried breath he took. The woman's face haunted him, her warm smile now twisted into a ghostly grin that sent chills racing down his spine. Just to be together, her voice echoed in his skull, layering the air with chilling familiarity. Who were they? What did freedom mean if it meant losing his very self? A sudden noise broke the silence, the low hum of an engine, growing louder. He squinted into the thick gray, his breath catching at the flicker of headlights piercing the gloom. Was it real? Or just another trick of the night? He stood in place, heart hammering wildly. Help! Help me! He screamed, the desperation pouring out as the sound nearly drowned by the mocking laughter swelling once more, but the light came closer, the outline of a vehicle materializing through the mist. That vehicle felt salvational, yet a lurking dread churned in his gut. What if they were in there? He couldn't shake the feeling that some unseen hand guided it, trapped among them out there in the light. He took a shaky step back, ready to plunge further into the suffocating fog, but something compelled him. A strong urge to trust? Perhaps it was the flickering hope of escape. The car screeched to a halt, engine rumbling. He could see the silhouette of a figure step out, emerging from the vehicle's glow. Hey! You alright? The voice was deep and steady, slicing through the air like a lifeline. Get back. Don't come any closer. He stumbled towards the voice, fear wide in his eyes. Listen. I'm here to help you. The figure held up his hands, coming closer, not letting the tension rise to a boil. We need to get out of here. He hesitated. The shadows were rolling in, moving faster, almost alive. What do you know about this place? He shouted, desperation lining his voice. More than I want to admit. Just trust me. As if fueled by rage, the laughter surged, thick and furious, echoing off the trees while the shadows flowed toward them like a tide, billowing and shifting. He turned back to the figure. Please, help me. Something crashed through the fog. An unearthly howl ripped through the night, chilling him to the core. Black shapes launched themselves from the darkness, frenzied and quick, faster than he could comprehend. "Get in!" The voice snapped him back. Instinct kicked in before reason could even register. He dashed toward the open door, diving into the vehicle, heart racing. But the shadows were relentless, surging forward like a pack of wolves. They didn't scream or yell, they moved with purpose, hunger ringing in their silent approach. The figure jumped in after him, slamming the door, locking it with a satisfying click. The engine roared to life as the vehicle lunged forward. But it wasn't enough to escape the laughter. It followed them, a wicked chorus behind the rev of tires tearing the fog apart. What were those things? He panted, panting as raw fear coursed through him. "They're more than just shadows," the man said grimly, fingers tight on the wheel. "You shouldn't have gone near that place. That light, it calls to people, promising what they're missing. But what it takes, is everything." He felt sick. The exhilaration of escape turned into dread. The laughter became a dissonant hymn, curling around him as the headlights flickered and dimmed, darkness creeping into the edges of their safety. "What now?" he whispered, the weight of helplessness crashing down. "We need to figure out how to sever the connection," the man said, the turmoil in his eyes betraying his calm facade. Before it's too late. The laughter seemed to swell, building in strength, veering closer as the night swallowed everything whole. Somewhere deep within the fog, something stirred. And it was coming for them. What would happen if they couldn't sever the connection? What if the shadows were stronger than they imagined? The tires screeched against the asphalt, the oppressive fog whipping around them as if hoping to smother the last remnants of light. He pressed back against the seat, feeling the cool leather against his sweat-soaked skin. The vehicle jolted over an unseen pothole, sending a shudder through him, a reminder that even solid ground could betray. "What's out there?" he gasped, peering through the windshield. The dim headlights barely pierced the oncoming darkness. "What do we need to sever?" The figure beside him, tall, rugged features shadowed in the dim light, gripped the steering wheel with white-knuckled intensity. "There's an old house just ahead." He glanced sideways, eyes filled with urgency. "It's a focal point, a place where reality and the shadows intertwine. If we can destroy it, destroy it." His voice was rising, disbelief hanging heavily in the air. "Destroy what?" "The source of the energy that's calling the shadows," he said, terror creeping into his voice. "It's what keeps them alive." A shudder ran through the man at the wheel, not of fear but of a deep-seated understanding. Shadows leaped outside the car, a flurry of black shapes swirling with manic energy like hungry flames. The laughter peaked, a cruel symphony that clawed at his sanity. Whatever was out there, it wanted in. What if the house isn't just a place? What if it's something more? He stammered, his heart racing in tandem with the shadow's pursuit. "We'll never find out if we stay here," he snapped, his confidence waning just like the headlights. With a jolt, he accelerated, but the fog thickened, a viscous barrier pressing against them as they struggled to break free. "This can't be real," he whispered, the words tasting like ash in his mouth. "It's just a dream." But as they sped past a crumbling sign, Miller-esque Grove, the laughter crescendoed, each taunting note slamming against his chest like a hammer. Shadows brushed against the car, ghostly fingers drumming wildly on the metal. He could have sworn he heard whispers, ancient voices drowning him in their chilling embrace. He turned to the man beside him, searching for assurance, but all he found was a vacant stare, lost in the depths of fear. "We can't die here," he pleaded, desperation clear in his voice. "We have to, I know." The grip on the wheel flexed, knuckles whitening. "But we can't outrun the darkness. It'll swallow us whole." A sudden violent jolt threw him sideways. The shadows had struck, a swift impact against the rear bumper that sent them careening. They narrowly missed a telephone pole, but the vehicle spun wildly, tires shrieking in protest as control slipped away. The world spun around him, flashes of light, dark silhouettes, everything blending into chaos. "Hold on!" shouted the man, voice raw with panic. The vehicle slammed sideways against a crooked fence, jolting them both. Dazed, he managed to open his eyes just in time to see the approaching outline of the old house. The gaping maw of its doorway seemed to beckon, like the hollow mouth of a predator. "Get out!" he shouted. "We have to go." They scrambled from the car, the fog enveloping them in icy tendrils. But as they ran toward the house, a piercing howl ripped through the air, sending spears of dread through his gut. The shadows were no longer aiming to scare, they were hunting. "Make it to the door, don't look back," the man shouted, but even the grains of sand within that space sounded heavy, oppressive. With each step, he felt something tugging at him, clawing at his sanity, whispering deceit just beneath the surface. A sense of looming dread crowded his mind. What sort of darkness lay within those walls? But then, he heard it, a voice, familiar and rich, calling out from the shadows, "Why don't you come back? We want you to stay." He hesitated, heart pounding, as a sense of recognition washed over him. How could it know his name? "Come back!" the voice hissed, filled with longing and deceit. He looked toward the house, shadows gathering like storm clouds, swirling ominously around them. And in that moment, something inside him faltered. Could he truly sever the connection? Or would he find himself lost amidst the swirling hatred, just another victim of the night? As the echoes of laughter twisted around them, anticipation hung heavy in the air. What if he chose wrong? What if the shadows held something precious of his, a piece he could never reclaim? The door loomed ahead, a gateway to revelation or damnation. What choice would he make? And how would it change everything? Before he could second-guess himself any further, he sprinted towards the house, every footfall echoing with dread. The icy fingers of fog curled around his ankles, trying to pull him down, to burden him with despair. He could feel the dark whispers morphing into a cacophony, taunting him, promising pain, yet enticing him with fleeting memories of warmth and safety. The door stood ajar, creaking softly as if welcoming, luring him into the darkness within. He hesitated. The shadows were a mere breath away, crawling closer, whispering seductive promises that sent his heart racing. He shook his head, desperate to expel their words from his mind. "Get in!" the man shouted, urgency slicing through the encroaching chaos. He dove into the threshold, crossing into an abyss that felt like splitting his very soul. The moment he crossed the threshold, the temperature dropped further, an unnatural chill that seemed to seep into his bones. Inside, the house felt alive, creaking and groaning, as if it had a heartbeat of twisted, decayed wood. Rotting wallpaper peeled off the walls in long ribbons, revealing patches of damp, moldy plaster. Dust motes danced in the beams of their flickering flashlight, shimmering like forgotten memories. "Where is it?" His voice trembled as he scanned the darkened corners. Fragments of steel and glass glittered on the floor, remnants of something broken long ago. "The basement," the man said, urgency lacing his tone. "We need to find the source." Even as he nodded, a shiver traced its way down his spine, an instinctual realization that something was waiting down there. The shadows outside pressed closer to the windows, their sharp edges clawing at the glass, desperate to break through. "Let us move." They navigated through the ground floor, dodging rotten furniture and twisted bodies of former lives lost to time. Each room felt like a small graveyard, filled with echoes that refused to die. He could almost hear them whispering his name, begging for him to stay, to join them in their eternal slumber. As they reached a staircase, the air grew thick with malevolence. The steps creaked ominously beneath their weight, groaning as if warning them against descending into the darkness below. He could feel the cold breath of the basement inviting him, wrapping around him like a shroud. "Are you ready?" his companion whispered, looking down at him, eyes wide with fear and determination. A scream erupted from outside the shadows, their hunger unquenched, picked up the pace. The laughter surged again, a sinister blend of haunting cries and maniacal joy. He hesitated again, the flicker of recognition clawing at the back of his mind. What was it about this house? Why did it feel like a part of him had been anchored here long before he ever arrived? Now! The man's voice snapped him back to the present, pushing him forward. They stepped onto the bottom step, and the moment they did, a gust of wind burst through the doorway behind them, slamming it shut with a thunderous crash. The basement swallowed them whole, a realm steeped in shadow, cluttered with the detritus of forgotten lives. They stood at the foot of a decrepit furnace, old and rusted, but radiating an ominous energy. "Help me," the man said, pulling at a loose board behind it. "It must be here." With every inch they exposed, the shadows coiled tighter, furious and desperate. "Stay close," the man warned, fear etched into his features, but as they worked, something inside the shadows whispered again, this time louder, more urgent, "Help him, or perhaps you'd like to stay forever?" A rush of adrenaline surged through him, fear entwined with an intoxicating lure. Who was this man? What price would he pay to sever this connection? He felt uncertainty wash over him again, dragging him down into the depths of doubt. What would happen if he chose to sever their bond? Would the shadows finally be free, or would something far worse wait ahead? With dread hanging thick, he clenched his fists, knowing the answers lay just beneath the surface, waiting to be unearthed. But could he truly face the darkness that lurked in the house? And what if it held a truth he was not prepared to uncover? With a surge of resolve, he pushed his fear aside and began to pry at the boards, splintering them apart. The air thickened around them, the screams and laughter still echoing, accompanied by the unsettling rustling of shadows lurking just beyond the light. Each splintering sound threatened to unearth secrets that had long lain dormant in this cursed place. As he pulled the final board loose, a dark void yawned open behind the furnace, a passageway deeper into the unknown. The air was frigid, almost biting, and a chill ran down his spine. "This must be it," the man whispered, urgency tightening his voice. "We need to sever the connection." Heart pounding, he turned to face the shadows that pressed into the room, watching like an audience hungry for a spectacle. The laughter swelled, a grotesque mix of delight and menace. He felt the powerful pulse of darkness, the promises it whispered mingling with flashes of familiarity from the woman's voice. "Stay with us, be free." "No. You're lying," he shouted, the words tearing from his throat as he stepped toward the void, compelled by something instinctual. Inside, the darkness called out, a siren's song that threatened to tear him apart. "I want to become one of you." He hesitated at the threshold, the shadows weaving through his mind, casting doubt over everything he held on to. Images of warmth, laughter, and comfort flickered in the depths of his memory, drawing him closer. But just as he teetered on the precipice of acceptance, the man at his side gripped his arm tightly. "You cannot trust them. We must do this." With that, the world around them warped. He turned and tore through the void, plunging into the darkness, doing everything in his power to resist the seduction of the shadows. The chill pierced his skin as he moved further inside. They scrambled over debris and remnants of the past, remnants whispering tales of sorrow, with every footfall echoing an unholy melody of sorrow and despair. Finally, they reached the center of the darkness, where the source of energy pulsed like a heartbeat. It was a small, blackened orb that radiated pure malice, a core of shadows seeking to fill the space with despair. "You need to destroy it," the man shouted, panic etched in his features. Summoning every ounce of strength, he lifted the metal rod lying nearby, its sharp edge glinting in the dim light. Heart racing, he swung at the orb, and it erupted with a deafening roar, releasing a wave of darkness that surged against them like a flood breaking free from imprisonment. The shadows shrieked, swirling violently as the orb shattered. A blinding light poured forth, consuming everything within its embrace. He shielded his eyes, feeling the heat against his skin as the darkness recoiled, pulling back in raw fear. The sinister laughter turned into shrieks of agony, all at once drowned within the brilliance. As the light swallowed him whole, and shadows vanished, he found himself outside the house. The fog began to dissipate, the air cool and fresh. He looked back at the once menacing structure, now just an old building layered with the wreckage of memory, cracked and crumbling, but free. Beside him, the man took a deep breath, relief flooding his features. "It's over," he said, voice tinged with disbelief. They had done it. Together, they had severed the connection. They both stood there, trembling but alive, the darkness retreating into the past where it belonged. "Come on," the man said, glancing back at the night sky slowly clearing. "Let us get out of here." As they turned away from the remnants of night's terror, a sense of peace washed over him. It wasn't just survival, they had faced the depths of despair and emerged stronger. The laughter faded into whispers, and the shadows dissipated into nothingness. With every step, he felt lighter, freer. "Where to now?" he asked, his heart finally finding its rhythm again. "Let us head north," the man replied with a small smile breaking through the shadows of otherworldly fear. "There's a diner not too far from here. We could use some coffee and maybe a piece of pie." As they walked forward, piece by piece, the weight of the world lifted from their shoulders. The road stretched out before them, paved with endless possibilities and brighter futures, and so, they left the remnants of darkness behind with newfound hope guiding their way. Great stories await. Share your heart and head with us. Now that you've journeyed through this tale, you need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and feed our passion. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. We want to know what you think. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.